Sentient swarms. The first time the ROV light struck it, the pilot thought the camera had glitched. The shape in the darkness didn't look like a single animal. It looked like a constellation, a drifting cathedral of glass threads and pulsing lanterns suspended nearly a mile beneath the Pacific. "Hold position," Dr. Mira Kessler whispered from the control room. The creature extended beyond the edge of the screen. A luminous spine ran down its center like fiber-optic cable, branching into delicate, translucent filaments that shimmered electric blue. Every few seconds, waves of light rippled from one end of the body to the other, precise and sequential. It was a siphonophore, a deep-sea colony often mistaken for a jellyfish, but far stranger than that. And this one was massive. Unlike a typical animal, a siphonophore is not a single organism. It is a colony of thousands of genetically identical units called zooids. Each zooid is specialized. Some form tentacles. Some digest food. Some reproduce. Some sense the environment. Together, they mimic one body. But tonight, the team wasn't studying anatomy. They were investigating consciousness. The ROV drifted closer, careful not to disturb the water. Mira leaned forward as new telemetry filled her screen. Electrical field measurements, bioluminescent pulse frequency, coordinated contraction data. "Trigger the light stimulus," she said. A faint beam flickered from the ROV's external panel, imitating the flash of a bioluminescent shrimp. Instantly, the siphonophore responded. Not randomly, not chaotically. A signal ignited at the forward tip of the colony and shot backward in a perfectly timed cascade. Tentacle zooids contracted in sequence, forming a widening net. Digestive zooids pulsed open in anticipation. The entire organism reoriented in the water column, angling itself toward the artificial stimulus. Thousands of separate bodies moved as one. Mira exhaled slowly. That's not just reflex. Across the control room, computational neuroscientist Dr. Arjun Patel shook his head. It could still be distributed signaling, like a spinal cord reflex arc. Stimulus in, contraction out. Across 30 meters? Mira countered. With synchronized reconfiguration, the siphonophore drifted again, luminous pulses traveling along its stem in subtle rhythms. Arjun overlaid the electrical field data with the optical patterns. The graphs aligned. Bioluminescent flashes weren't random defense displays. They correlated with shifts in tension across the colony's nerve net. A diffuse network connecting zooids through shared tissue. It wasn't a centralized brain, but it was a network. Over the next hour, they repeated the experiment with varying stimuli. Simulated prey flashes, low-frequency vibration pulses, mild acoustic interference. Each time, the response traveled like a thought, a coordinated wave. Mira's mind replayed what she'd studied for years. Siphonophores evolved from simple hydrozoans. Over millions of years, natural selection favored specialization. Instead of individual survival, the colony became the unit of evolution. Limbs without independence. Stomachs without identity. Sensors without ego. But what happens when coordination becomes complex enough to resemble intention? The ROV cameras zoomed in on a cluster of sensory zooids along the forward crest. These delicate structures glowed faintly violet, responding first to environmental changes. From them, faint electrical spikes traveled down the colony's stem. Input nodes, processing nodes, output nodes. It looked disturbingly like circuitry. Arjun ran a synchrony analysis. "Neural coherence is spiking before full contraction," he said. "There's anticipatory delay compensation." Mira stared at the waveform. "You're saying it predicts movement?" "I'm saying the timing suggests integration, not just reaction." Another stimulus test. This time, two artificial prey signals fired simultaneously from opposite directions. The siphonophore paused. The pulses along its body intensified, converging at a midpoint before branching outward in two symmetrical nets. The colony split its response efficiently, capturing both light sources. No confusion. No random thrashing. Resource allocation. Decision-making? The control room fell quiet except for the hum of processors. If each zooid possessed only local reflexes, conflicting stimuli should create chaotic contraction. Instead, the colony balanced its response, optimizing energy expenditure. Mira felt the weight of the question pressing against her thoughts. If intelligence requires integration of information, prediction, and coordinated action toward a goal, what exactly disqualified this? Human brains operate through billions of neurons firing in synchronized patterns. No single neuron understands the mind it composes. Perhaps the siphonophore was similar. A distributed mind without a skull. "Run the latency map," she said softly. Arjun overlaid time delays between stimulus detection and distal tentacle deployment. The propagation speed was slower than human neural transmission, but astonishingly fast for a gelatinous marine colony. More importantly, signal strength didn't degrade with distance. It amplified. The further the wave traveled, the more zooids joined the cascade, reinforcing the signal like a stadium crowd performing a coordinated chant. Below them, in the abyssal dark, the siphonophore elongated and contracted in slow, hypnotic rhythm. Bioluminescent pulses shimmered like thoughts crossing a translucent brain. Mira imagined the colony not as parts, but as perspectives. Each zooid sensing a fragment of the world. Each pulse a vote. Collective consensus emerging from biological democracy. "Are we looking at a mind?" Arjun asked quietly. Mira hesitated. Consciousness in humans feels singular, unified, private. But evolution has no obligation to follow one blueprint. Ant colonies exhibit swarm intelligence. Flocks of birds turn in perfect synchrony. Neural networks in artificial intelligence learn without centralized awareness. Why should the ocean not host its own distributed cognition? The ROV lights dimmed to preserve battery. In the softer glow, the siphonophore's bioluminescence intensified, waves cascading along its length in layered patterns, blue over violet over faint green sparks. Mira noticed something new. Between experimental stimuli, spontaneous pulses still traveled through the colony, slower, exploratory waves. Tentacles flexed gently, sampling microcurrents. Sensory zooids brightened in small clusters, then dimmed. It wasn't idle, it was processing, or perhaps simply being. A faint tremor passed through the water, a distant tectonic rumble. Instantly, the siphonophore compressed, reducing surface area, tentacles retracting in unison. Milliseconds later, it expanded again, restoring its predatory formation. Environmental awareness. Threat assessment. Adaptive reconfiguration. The abyss outside the ROV remained vast and silent. Countless other colonies likely drifted beyond the edge of light, pulsing in quiet synchrony. How many minds floated in the dark? Or were they minds at all? Simply exquisite machines refined by natural selection. The distinction blurred the longer Mira watched. "Imagine," Arjun murmured, "if consciousness isn't about having a brain, it's about having enough integrated complexity." Mira nodded slowly. On her monitor, the colony's light pulses formed a final sweeping cascade, traveling from tail to crest before dissolving into scattered flickers. The siphonophore tilted away, drifting beyond the reach of artificial light, its luminous threads fading into the black. The control room remained still long after the screens went dark. Thousands of feet below, the gelatinous architecture continued its silent choreography. A floating organism, a colony, perhaps something more. Not a collection of clones, not a single animal, but a living question mark suspended in the abyss. If intelligence can be distributed, if awareness can emerge from coordination, then the most alien mind on Earth may not walk on land. It may drift, radiant and collective, in the deepest ocean, thinking in pulses of light. Please like, subscribe, and follow for more.